And we've got my friend Monica on the Zoom call. Can you still hear me, Monica?
Yes. Hi, Sean. It's nice to join you. Thanks for inviting me on.
Thank you so much for coming on. I know you've been following a lot of the topics that I like to talk about on YouTube and on Facebook, stuff like the secret space program, hidden technologies, extraterrestrials, dimensions, NESARA, psyops, conspiracies, a lot of the stuff that I've been heavily censored for on YouTube over and over again. This video might get deleted, so I'm going to back it up on some other channels also. I'll leave links in the description. But I've had several videos. In fact, YouTube has been systematically deleting my videos for talking about this stuff. But I'm just going to keep doing it anyways. Monica, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you get your information from? Because I've seen you do live streams on Instagram with people from, and I know some of the words we can't say because of the censorship, so we're gonna use a little bit of code words, but same initials as Mary Jane and then the number 12. Also for other words like the 17th letter of the alphabet, we're not supposed to say that on YouTube. They might delete us. So I'm going to try my best to use code words, but tell us where you get your information from and when did you start following all these topics?
I myself have personally been researching the past 12 years. I started with a lot of YouTube, watching Alex Collier, David Icke, David Wilcock. And so I went on a long journey, just delving into everything that I could. And so finally, my frequency reached such a level that apparently the universe wanted me to meet the chairman of MJ12. So we met about 5 years ago. And so he's one of my main insiders on the AT and alien disclosure, which I have been working with him on. And as far as the NESARA, that is something that I've also been studying quite a lot. And it just so happens that a close friend of mine that I met while I was working at a vitamin store turns out to be somebody that was involved with the Navy, which was briefed on this whole NESARA project. And ever since then, he's been a very high up there, and he's an informant of mine. I am very close to these people. I've not organically with me that I just studied all these subjects for so long. And I took on a lot more than I could chew with discovering a lot of these things and being a part, working on bringing these things to the forefront. But even before all this began, while I was doing my research, I just came across that I was a starseed, that I was here for this mission, and that entailed bringing out free energy technology and a gold-backed financial system. So that's where I'm still holding the space right now and working on that right now and making sure that these operations are going well.
All right. So for anyone who's just tuning into this kind of knowledge, what is a star seed?
A star seed is basically a soul that has come from a higher dimension or has traveled from another planet to be incarnated into a physical body here in this time now. And also a star seed could be multiple extraterrestrial races, and they could have been having incarnations on several different planets. They could have had teachings from Arcturus, or they could have had teachings from multiple places in their past lives. But basically what a star seed is a person that is of a highly evolved extraterrestrial race, or in a higher dimension, that has come here to achieve a certain mission and a role to save Earth and save humanity so that Earth can evolve with the rest of our solar system and ascend.
You were mentioning NESARA, GESARA. Who's really behind that? Who or what group is behind that? Is this in some way a psyop? And I've also met people who claim to be invested in NESARA, GESARA. Could you elaborate on that?
Okay, so at the very top, there's purple beings. This is a race of extraterrestrials which are directing this. They want the Earth to have the opportunity to be a free will planet with no longer any sort of financial domination. Below them, it is the Chinese elders, and the Chinese elders are the main faction and group that is in charge. It is not one specific person, it is a group. And there's also been wealth that's been accumulating for the past few decades from sources such as Saint Germain, and these trust funds have been accumulating. And They even had a lot of the underneath the World Trade Centers, which is one of the reasons why the deep state wanted to attack it, so that they could steal the gold for the Obama and the Bush administration. The gold and the Chinese elders, it's actually based in the Philippines. So what you're asking, is it a psyop? That is a very difficult question. This is not a psyop. This is destined to happen. This is something that our planet is preparing for, but there has been some misinformation as far as the dates. It is still scheduled to definitely be happening, possibly even by this summer. We should know by July. But this is something that the Chinese elders are working very hard to bring through. Some of them have died. Some of them have been very stressed out. And so there's a lot of process that had to be done in order to bring this out, which included bankers that were hacking, cabal that wanted to just get a piece of the pie. And there's 209 countries that have to sign on to this in order to be gold backed. So can you imagine how long it takes leaders of 209 countries to all agree upon something? This is not a psyop. Some of the dates are changed, and some of the people that are involved with talking about it, including Charlie Ward, they could be psyop. But majority of this mission has been in the process. It has been occurring. We have the gold to back it. And these funds will be streamed out, and some of them are already being streamed out. So in order for GESARA to happen, we needed all these 209 countries. But NESARA, which is the National Economic Security and Reformation Act, is based in the United States. It is where it'll start first, and then it'll go global. So globally, you have all these countries that need to, come up to speed on it. There is different currencies, such as the ZIM, the Dong, the dinar, and these will be traded in. What is your next question?
So as part of NESARA and GESARA, it also describes more than just a complete restructure of the monetary system. It describes things like advanced technology, such as these medical healing beds, or these holographic medical beds that supposedly can scan your body, cure all diseases, regrow limbs, and even reverse aging. Could you talk about those?
Absolutely. So not only is there med beds, but there's cocoons, and there's even more advanced celestial healing chambers. The med beds, they're already here. They've been here since the 1950s in various hospitals, because when there's a ET ship that crashes, the ET has to then go into that med bed. So I want to just get into detail about what you're asking. Okay. First of all, do they cure all diseases? Absolutely. They can scan the body of a person with AI technology and find out any irregularities. And once these irregularities are found, the medbed is then able to correct it. So such as missing limbs, it is possible to regrow them back, but you might need many sessions to grow those back. The only case in which is if their body, it is impossible. But people who have pins inside their arms, who have retinal damage, who even have mental damage or PTSD trauma, these sort of situations, they can be healed. The med beds, what has occurred to me is that this is something that you need to have a special technician to run. ETs, highly trained ETs will specially train people who get a med bed on how to work it. So these med beds, they have been starting to be brought out in certain places like Switzerland. In the next few months, it'll be Florida, possibly Texas. And in order to get one of these med beds, you should be on a list. Also, you can reach Tesla, the actual Tesla company in San Jose, and try to speak to them about it. The prices of these med beds are $300,000. So it's a good chunk of change, and you need to store it in a very secure facility, because once people find out that you have this, they will be coming by the thousands. So it has to be a very secure facility. And you do have to pay attention to the exact needs of these people. Some of them will need more sessions. If they want to get age reversal, there's two options for the age reversal. One is you can be made completely immortal. Now, some people, they don't want to be completely immortal. So they have the other option, which is to age regress themselves back to around the age 25 for a female and around the age 31 for a male. Now, they will still be able to grow older. Their whole process of them getting older, it's still going to happen. It's just that the process of the cell degradation, it's going to not be as rapid. So once they get to a point where they're older again, they have the option to reset the process. But you do have to train these people before they come in to get age regressed, that they have to understand that, one, this is going to affect your body physically. You're going to see people dying around you who are getting older. And also your family is going to see you back at a young age. So how are they going to respond to that? Is that something that they still want to do? All of your consciousness will still be intact, but your body will be back to its original 20, 21-year-old, around the 21 to 25 age range, where you're very healthy. You don't have any issues. And there's even specific ones at specific settings on advanced med beds that can give you more body hair, make you taller, give you certain things like that. So, in the future, within the next year, these will be coming out. And do you have any more questions on that specifically?
Yeah, one more question. How long do you think this technology has been around for, and why do you think it's been kept hidden?
Okay, so main thing is these technologies have been given to us by ETs. So some of it has been back engineered. And in secret space programs, in S4, where Bob Lazar was working, they could take a component and actually work on it for 30 years before they had constructed something that was of useful value. So it's been around probably since the 1940s, when we've been making contact with extraterrestrials and trading these technologies. The reason it's been covered up is because some of these things are so much moderated by these controllers who don't want the public to have it and access it so they can use it themselves, and because it would change corporations such as gasoline corporations, medical corporations, pharmaceutical, and these are all industries that are using us to profit money. And it is being told that the systems are breaking down and things have to be replaced in order for the planet to evolve, so we don't keep destroying it by using all these sources. And so that is another thing that's going to be changing, is the pharmaceutical companies, especially with COVID, because so many doctors and nurses are realizing what's happening. They're stepping away, and there will be lawsuits for them.
Gotcha.
So go on. What did you want to ask next?
Could you tell us about these Zeropoint free renewable energy devices? Who's got them? Are they going to be available to the public? How much do they cost?
Okay, so first of all, you have to understand Zeropoint energy devices are brought here by extraterrestrial beings. So who has them? It's different governments. So it's governments like China, Russia, the United States, and these have been back engineered and manufactured in top secret facilities. So who has them? Space programs, black budget operations, who are back engineering this technology. And when it can come out, it depends. It's either the secret space program decides to start releasing it. There's white hats in the secret space program that are on the behalf of humanity that want to bring this out. And it's also been said that the higher advanced extraterrestrials and the Galactic Federation would like to start bringing these things out, such as replicators, and then these 0 point energy boxes that are the size of a microwave that can power our house and a whole city. It has been told to me by the chairman that they are planning to build new future cities with these sorts of free energy technology. So that includes the Tesla. Tesla had invented 0 point energy devices, and this was stolen by the government. They took all of these patents. And so there's been many inventors that have already invented such technologies. It has just been withheld from the public. And now that the ETs are here and they want to intervene because it's been getting so bad, and basically my part is also to hold, sort of be a liaison and sort of hold the space for what should be happening here with the free energies, and to be able to start releasing that. So it looks like within the upcoming year, we could start to have meetings with certain beings that will be directing us and mentoring us on what to do, and actually bringing us devices like replicators, which are also going to be able to produce food. And it's just going to change and revolutionize our lives to where we're not really dependent on a grocery store. We're not dependent on, all these different markets that have been using us and controlling us. So, I think our energy systems are really going to start to change with the Tesla tech. But as far as when, I would just say around this year, and possibly even into 2021.
Okay. And now that you mentioned Tesla, what role is Elon Musk playing? And is there any kind of connection with SpaceX, Starlink, and the quantum financial system, and NESARA, GESARA? And is there some kind of connection to XRP or any cryptocurrencies here?
Okay, so yes, Tesla and Elon Musk are part of it, but you also have to understand that Elon Musk has people behind him. So these people, they are really the ones responsible for it. Elon makes a face for it, even though he's very intelligent. He does contribute. The most recent news I heard was that he is a white hat, and these satellites, the Starlink satellites, lately they've been being put up more and more. There was like 120 of them that he launched up there recently. So this does have to do with the QFS, but these satellites are they're all watched. None of these satellites, if they're negative, they can be brought down, they can be shot down. So it is part of the system. However, QFS, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, I know you're not going to like this, Sean, but I've told you this before. It was something that was started by the CIA in order to get things to be digital. And that is digital has the capability of being switched off and turned off at a moment's notice. Also, Bitcoin has been something that there's a factory in China that produces the Bitcoin, and it's been used for child trafficking. And pretty soon the Three Gorges Dam is getting ready to burst. China to flood the Wuhan lab and to flood the Bitcoin lab. And the Alliance has put in certain scalar technology to be able to crack this dam even more. So the military has already moved out 48 million Chinese people. The dam is going to break. Bitcoin is most likely going to be turned off. So XRP, as far as I know, around September of last year, they stopped selling it. The reason is, who knows? I did hear that there's a specific way of buying it, but in the future, if you want to achieve wealth and have good investments, if you're looking into something, you want tangible resources, or if you would like to buy some elements such as gold, silver, platinum is going to be very beneficial in the future in the next 10 years, as well as rhodium. These are elements that should be invested in, but you should hold them. They shouldn't be in something like the stock market. So in the future, silver is going to increase very much in value. because it is a rare earth element. It cannot be found on other planets. Gold is a currency that is used all over different systems. And as you know, that is something that is good to have on hand. So what are you going to do when the grocery stores close, or if you need to trade and barter with people because, all these systems start to fall away? Well, you're going to need to know how to plant and garden, grow your own food, and have things to barter. So that is something that I would just like to tell you, is the cryptos, although people have used them to transfer money, some of that money has been used to transfer buying child trafficking. And so it could be that that's going to be something that is just going to be non-existent in the future. So if you do have your wealth backed up in that, realize that you paid your own assets and your own energy, your hard-earned dollar, even though that dollar is fiat backed, into a system that could just be switched off because it's digital.
Okay.
That's that.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of stuff
questions?
about the dam and all that. So lots of rumors going around. We'll see what happens. Okay, my other question was, what, in your opinion, what is really in these vaccines? Is it some kind of nanotechnology, and is it really designed to change your DNA?
Okay, I'm going to have to take a little while to answer this one because there's a lot that goes with it. And I've been studying everything to do with COVID ever since it all began in March of, so I want to go over it in kind of some detail, but what is in it? What is in it? It is a cocktail of all sorts of chemicals, all sorts of things, including 5 to 6 month-year-old male aborted fetal parts. This is called MRC5, I believe. And so that is one reason you can say, I do not want a vaccine, is because this is against my religion. You have the ability to ask the doctor, has the MRC5. And once they tell you yes, then you say, I object because of religious rights. So that's one part of it. There's also monkey genetics. There's also human mice hybrid genetics. All sorts of things like AIDS, MERS, SARS, and it's just a cocktail of all the possible things that could kill people. So what it will do, it will eradicate your own innate immune system, which means you will be susceptible to any sorts of diseases much, much easier, and your body will not be able to attack it. The other thing is, yes, there is nanotechnology inside of them. This also includes in the masks, especially the blue masks, there's formaldehyde in them, and there's also a chemical that is inside asbestos, as well as tiny little tracking microchips. So get rid of the blue masks. If you have to wear a mask, only wear a cloth one. In these vaccines, though, I'm just going to put it this way. What you're doing, this has been studied by me. So what you're doing is you're actually testing an experimental drug that has been concocted by these labs. And you know what their purpose is to depopulate the planet and to cut off your consciousness. So your frontal lobe in your brain, which controls your connection to God and its consciousness, has a VMAT2 gene. And there's a lecture where Bill Gates is talking to the CIA about the VMAT2 gene and how it influences various religious believers that are just like fundamentalists that want to be terrorists and like go blow up a group of people. So there's certain people that are very religious who have this VMAT2 gene, and what this shot is going to do is it's going to turn that gene off. So it's mRNA and DNA modifying. So it essentially rewrites the codes of your DNA and your mRNA. You're no longer going to be human. You're going to be a patented GMO being. So once you have this, your conscious connection with God and source is going to be turned off. And there's even been people that are energy healers that have looked at someone who have had their 2 shots, and their energy signature, it appears that their consciousness and their soul is completely out somewhere roaming around in a void of nothing, and it's separated from their physical body. Whereas before, you're connected to your physical body. So people have to understand that it's under the FDA. It was passed to be an experimental thing, and it has been studied on little bit on animals, and then once all those animals died, they just moved on to humans. It's even been said that it will completely crystallize people's hearts and their organs. You're seeing blood clots with AstraZeneca. You're seeing, a reversal of the AstraZeneca, saying they banned it in Europe and in these other places. Well, guess what? They're going to change their name. They're going to change the name of AstraZeneca. So, the more and more people are afraid, the more and more the higher ups have control. So you really got to educate some of these people, and some of their lives are just dependent on a job or getting a vaccine passport. I personally think that they're going to be trying to push it through. I do want to mention a book with everybody who's going to tell you more about what the nano part is within these things and what it does. And this book is The Great Reset. This is written by Cyrus Parsa. He's an expert with AI and with the CCP and how they're trying to enslave humanity through AI. So I want to get into the nano part of this, because nanotechnology is something that has been put into the masks and put into the and the PCR swab. So you can find videos where there's like a zoom in, and it's like a microscopic version of these test swabs, PCR, and you can see little black worm-like things on them. And then when you blow with a hot breath on it, these little worms, they start to move. You activate it because it responds to a living thing. And same with the blue masks. You want to cut it open, put some steam or some hot breath on it, and microscopically look at it, and there's little black fibers. So what these little black fibers are doing, they're essentially going into your skin tissue, especially if you're getting the swab up there and you're breaking that very sensitive nasal membrane. Not only are you going to allow future bacteria up into that membrane, but some of these swabs, people have dissected them, and there's different ones that have liquid that has the COVID. There's different ones that have a tiny little microchip at the end that actually gets implanted up into past your nasal cavity into your brain. And then these PCR tests on the ends of the swabs, they have these little pricks. They're not just like a cotton swab. And then these little pricks, they also have the nanotechnology, black worms on them, and they go up and they implant themselves into your tissue, into your brain. And this is why I want you guys to read this book. Honestly, read this book, The Great Reset by Cyrus A. Parsa, because this has to do with AI and with being able to control people's consciousness through different energy waves. So I want you to have an understanding that the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, they have a pact with the Draco reptilians, and the Draco want to control this planet. They want to take it over. However, the good beings on the Galactic Federation are warring with them, so they do not have control of this planet. So the AI and this technology has been developed, especially by the Chinese Communist Party, because they don't like anybody to have freedom of thought. So these experimental vaccines, they carry many different, not only genetic modifying, not only can they control your consciousness, but they're also going to turn you into a sort of cyborg where you're going to be able to be hooked up to an AI, which is artificial intelligence. And there's also different forms of artificial intelligence. And some of them are, they're like a quantum computer that is so highly advanced that literally it will turn rogue and it can start destroying people. So you don't want to be a part of this whatsoever. If you've had the PCR test, if you've had the blue face masks on, then the only thing that I feel like it'll reverse it is doing a very good detox, and that includes zeolites. Zeolite is a powder. It could be purchased, and you take a teaspoon of it and drink it with water, as well as the other good thing for nano, diatomaceous earth. And you want to continually extract these metals and this nano out of your body. So look those things up. And I believe that this, once you get it, it's going to be irreversible. And even the med beds, I've been told that even the med beds won't fix you after you've taken the vaccine. You're fucked.
Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. That was actually going to be my next question, was how does one detox this stuff out of their body? So, yeah, thanks for answering that one already. And then my other question was, how does one initiate extraterrestrial contact, and what role do these people play on planet Earth that are able to do this?
Right. Well, you really want to be careful who you're contacting. There's certain extraterrestrial beings you do not want to contact, because they will take you, abduct you, and do all sorts of things with you. And once they have you, you're theirs. So you need to be very careful who you're contacting. First of all, I would like to, just preface this by saying that there's many different forms of beings out there. They could be ugly, but they could be very highly evolved, loving, peaceful. So you have to go by their vibrations and their energy. And there's also trickster beings that can project a false screen to you, and they can trick you into thinking that they're peaceful. So you have to be very, very, very highly intuitive to be able to pick up on these vibes of who you're dealing with. Now, how to start contact. You want to basically get into a very high frequency mode where you have an unconditionally loving heart, an open heart, where you're accepting, and you want to create a space that feels safe for them so they do not feel threatened. So then you would go about doing a meditation, inviting them telepathically, because these beings, even though they can learn earth languages, they're used to telepathic communication, which is mind-to-mind data transfer. And so you have to actually practice with your third eye, being able to receive these messages and these downloads and these channelings. If you have ill intent, they might not even want to talk to you. But if your purpose is to have answers, seek guidance, and just be like a good person that is inquisitive, then they will reach you. There's certain spots that you might want to go in the world. Sedona, Arizona is very well known for having ships coming, and as well as places like Joshua Tree. And, so you want to be very careful, first of all, with who you're trying to contact. Second of all, you send out telepathic communication. So say you want to, meet an Andromedan or something like that. You would go to a peaceful place, maybe in a park, maybe somewhere where, there's not going to be a lot of light, where you can see them, and just start asking for a craft or a scout ship to show itself, and to, just to start like initiating contact with you. The first thing I want to say is, don't have your expectations too high on them landing, because it's actually something that they get picked up on radar when they come in interdimensionally, and then helicopters can be sent, and within 15 minutes there will be helicopters around the area. So if you are trying to forcefully land, then you might need to do this trick where you take 12 of these, these things that you light when you have like an emergency on the side of the freeway, and like, yeah, it's like
they're flares.
They're flares. Okay, so you would take 12 flares, and you put the 12 flares around in like a clockwise circle. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and have a couple of people start lighting these flares. So once you get all these flares lit, it's going to alert and be a signal that there's a downed craft. And so ETs are going to come, and they're going to check out this downed craft. But do not do this without without some kind of like precautions, because who you are contacting or who could come down and see this emergency, they don't know. The reason that they do not have the authority to land yet is because they have an agreement with the military, and there's also a process of non-interference. But here's the thing: when your third eye is open and when you make contact with these beings, they are able to show themselves to you in their higher dimensional form. So you would just see them and perceive them through your third eye. You would hear intently to what they're saying, the frequencies that they're picking up on. So even though they can't land or meet you physically, certain ones, they are able to come in their essence and speak to you telepathically. So you just want to be super, super in tune with what they would be saying to you, and that takes some practice. Being a channel and receiving downloads and direct guidance is something that you should ask, because there is a process of non-interference, and it is a free will planet, almost free will planet, even though it hasn't been respected by some Draco. So there's tones as well. There's certain frequencies that they are that they like to respond to. Also green lasers. If you get a very high luminous green laser and you point it up at the sky, they'll see where you're at. But I just do this honestly telepathically. I sit in a peaceful place. I go to Joshua Tree or I go to Sedona at night, and I just start saying, I'm here. I'm open to seeing you. If you have any messages, go ahead. And I've seen about 20 ships show up in one night while I was out in Joshua Tree, just alone. No flashlight, no tones, no nothing. They just know me and they know my frequency, and they came. That's all. So contact, even in the future with contact, it looks like there's going to be groups from the inner earth, and there's already advanced civilizations that meet on their ships, such as Ashtar Command, that do want to come and they want to communicate with humans and mentor them, guide them. And I'm not sure if this is going to just start off with groups. Honestly, if they wanted to do a full-on landing, they could just land somewhere in like Los Angeles and it'll be covered everywhere. So you want to be careful who's coming off these ships. You're going to see. If you're not going to be able to handle it, and if they can tell that you're afraid, then they won't come too much closer. They can read you. They're very, very intelligent. They read your mind before you even know what to say. So, if it's not the right time for you, if you're scared, if you're not ready, they're not going to do it, because they just know how far to take it.
Okay. And now,
did I miss anything out?
No, that was a lot. That was a lot of info. Do you think that some of these, or has there been events in the past where some of these ships or these beings might have landed that have been covered up?
Of course. So, you want to get into Antarctica, I assume, right?
Yeah, that was
What's
actually
going on with
one of my
Antarctica?
next questions. So
okay, so let's just start with your first question. Antarctica, we'll get into that in a little bit. But have they landed? Sure they have. I mean, they've just been in certain facilities. They have to go through like a military base in order to land. They just can't just pop up wherever they so choose, because they have to kind of go by our laws with our leaders a little bit, somewhat. So in the past, since the 1920s, they've started to land. There's been crash landings. Of course, we found so many that it's impossible to bury them all now, or it's impossible to transport them all now and have a storage facility for them. So some of them, wherever they crash, they end up getting buried there. In the times in Antarctica, there was 3 ships that landed back then in Antarctica, and they knew this to be a safe spot in Antarctica to land there. So you may have heard of the ancient builder race. I suggest some people do their research on this, but the crafts did land there. And this goes all the way back to Egypt. Okay. There was a ship that came that had reptilians on it, actually. This is before the Egyptian pyramids were built. And there was a female and three males. And what happened was they got stuck here and they needed a way out. So they built the pyramids to be like a homing beacon with a capstone that was crystal on the top of it to send out like a huge laser beam that could be seen and picked up by any of their ET friends to come and rescue them. But this didn't work. There was nobody that came and rescued them, so they had to interbreed with themselves, and they started producing offspring that was of, they kind of turn out to be, like, lack of a better term, retarded. So the pharaohs were dying around age 8 to 12, and so that is when they started to see that there were beings already on this planet, and that was the Cro-Magnon man. And then they started to splice through their cells 62 times to change their chromosome to be able to advance them so that they could read what these ETs were saying. So if you look at like Nefertiti, she had this long skull, this long elongated skull, right? These were extraterrestrials. So it's been happening for thousands of years on this planet. And Antarctica is melting, and so there's more things that are sticking out in the ice. And I think it's possible that that these things will do disclosure themselves, but it's being covered up. Another thing is we've had the since World War II, a lot of the Germans, the Nazi SS, these scientists, they were brought in to the U.S. through Project Paperclip, and they also went to Antarctica. And that's where they began developing even more of their programs, such as with hybridization, such as with building, super advanced craft. And they're thousands of years ahead into the future.
When you mentioned the splicing and the genetic manipulation, do you think, is that how the human is that how our species got created?
Yes, our species was upgraded. It was genetically modified to be able to understand the directions that these extraterrestrial beings were giving them to become miners. And so there's also been over time, okay, because we're like 95% Anunnaki, but over time, more and more alien species have added their genetics. They have advanced expert geneticists that work specifically on, altering DNA and chromosomes and things like that. And so it has now been like kind of a mixture with Anunnaki, with our original upgrade from Cro-Magnon, and then with other beings. So you could be a part Sirian, part Pleiadian, part Arcturian, part Lyran, and up to 16. So there's like 16 different races that could be a part of our genetics and our bloodline. And, if you want to look into that, look at the shape of your foot. Depending, there's certain charts that you could look at for the shape of your foot to see where you're from. Also just the shape of your face, your physical features, and if you're looking into understanding which traits you have or what ET species you may have had relations with in the past life, then just try to look up ETs, star seeds, and you can even go on YouTube and search something like star seed characteristics for a Sirian. And then they'll give you a list of all these traits. And so some people will really resonate with that. Some people will really resonate with the Pleiadians. Some people will really resonate with other beings. So we are kind of a mixture. Our DNA can be compiled by multiple ET races. And some of them, they're actually jealous of humans because we're like genetic royalty, which still has emotions, and emotions are seen as a very powerful thing, especially in when you combine your emotions and that intense energy and passion, you're able to manifest things a lot better. So that is one thing that some ETs are jealous about us with.
The law of attraction is what you're talking about.
Well, the law of attraction has to do with your subconscious mind, and also being able to have the ability to put your intent into manifesting. And when your intent is amplified, such as when you're in a very meditative mode, when you're in gamma wave frequencies, then you're able to kind of be in a layer between the dimensions where it's much, much more easy to control the quantum and to start writing these things in. But with our focused intent and emotion, it could be anger, it could be love, these things amplify the intent.
Gotcha. And now gamma frequency, that's when you're in like a heightened
So
state, like when you open
I
the
think,
gland. Hang on, you froze up there for a second.
no, you know what? That's okay. I still heard your question.
Okay.
Yeah, there's alpha, beta, delta, gamma, and theta waves. So normally when you're operating during the daytime, you're at alpha. When you start meditating, your brain waves, they kind of slow down. Then you go to beta, then there's delta. And before you go to sleep, you're at gamma. And then when you're in deep sleep,
Yeah,
you're
I'm
in
on the call.
theta.
Okay. Yeah, I went to one of those workshops where they would hook up like a brain scanner and they would measure the different frequencies that your brain goes into during meditation. It was pretty cool just to like see it because
Right?
they demystify it with science.
Yes, so there's different ways to slow down your brain waves, such as with deep breathing and being in an environment that doesn't have any distractions. Because anything that goes towards increasing stress and adrenaline, it really takes you away from slowing down your brain waves. And the more and more that you are able to relax and slow down your brain waves, then you're going to be at a wave that is going to be more conducive towards you putting your energy into manifesting any intent that you have.
Interesting stuff.
And it's more powerful when you do it with three people.
Hmm.
You're trying to reach a goal when you have that trinity of people, and you have the same focused intent and manifesting, and you're at that brainwave, then you're able to sort of co-create reality.
That was another thing they
Yeah.
did in the workshop too, is not only did they measure people's brains, but they measured the energy in the whole room from the beginning of the workshop all the way till the end. So we got to see the measurements of how everyone's energies increased throughout the whole weekend. We did this. It was a Dr. Joe Dispenza workshop where they did that. You probably heard of Joe Dispenza, right?
Oh, yes, I have.
All right. Next question was, who built the rings of Saturn and what is their purpose?
Okay, so these rings weren't exactly built. There was already an advanced ET civilization that was living on Saturn. They had cities, much like we have cities, and their buildings were amazing. They were huge and they were made out of glass. And then there was an evil race of ETs that came in and they blew everything up. I think it was the Draco. But all this glass, it was totally shattered and it went and surrounded the entire planet. So their atmosphere is now made up of this glass. But now, since consciousness has been altered by this vision, that consciousness of Saturn and these rings, they are projecting energetic waves to the moon, and the moon is like a satellite that beams these waves to Earth. This is something that I learned from David Icke, that these frequencies that are coming through the rings, it's like an antenna with the moon, and they're just sending out information, and it's not good. It's kind of controlling this planet. And there's also a black cube on Saturn, and there's a hexagon on six-pointed shape on the top of Saturn. So this planet is no longer where it once was. These rings are just glass remnants of the previous civilization.
Okay. Other question was on the moon and Mars, who's got bases on there and what's happening on those planets?
So the moon is it's like a docking station for any sort of beings that are coming through. They have to check in with the secret space program. So there's Nazi secret space program, Germans, the Chinese, and the US, and also Galactic Federation. So that is essentially what the moon is. There's a dark side of the moon. I'm sure you've heard of it, where there's inside the moon, there's cities built in there. So it's like a hollowed out ship that was donated to us by another ET race, and it's been kind of like used as a satellite. And so the beings that are up on Mars, it also includes the SSP, the US, and there's other different civilizations that are going and docking onto Mars. You can even look up specific whistleblowers that have had experiences on Mars. There's a great number of them. I don't want to go into detail about all of them, but suffice it to say that there are beings, different human and alien, working on both the Mars and the moon.
Okay. All right, this is my last question. Of all the things that you've learned, that you've saw, of all the people that you've met, all the insiders, the whistleblowers, what's like the most craziest, mind-blowing thing that you've came across since you started researching all this stuff?
Craziest, most mind-blowing thing. I would think it would have to be that we are used for loosh, that different ET beings, they consume our energy, they consume our adrenochrome, people's blood. The hardest thing to swallow is that there's body parts and humans that are used in a galactic slave trade because they see our human vessel as currency. So you can be traded for loosh. Loosh is actually emotions such as negative energy, fear, and things like this, and it becomes harvested. And so this energy that's harvested is taken into the black cube, and it's used by different negative extraterrestrial groups, the reptilians and Draco, to be able to sustain themselves. So we're being fed on emotionally, and that is probably the craziest thing, that this is stored and harvested.
Crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually, okay, now I have one more question because that just led me into another one. How does someone fight against that evil intention to harvest us?
Oh boy. So when you're at a very high frequency, then you're at a dimension where they can't really reach you. However, you can be targeted because they can read your mind. So you want to be able to put a white dome around your mind. So that is one layer of protection. So they can't read your mind. There's other layers of etheric protection, such as putting yourself in a 500 ring titanium shield, or in the titanium tube of light with all sorts of different flames of light going in and around it. There's also the pink plasma egg, using this around you. The cobalt blue egg. This is better than the white thoughts. You don't want to be picked up by it. There's also the gold flame pyramid. You activate your silver cloak, which makes you invisible. Then you want to use, more specific things. You could use like a black tourmaline piece of crystal, Nuumite crystal. That's spelled Nuumite. And that is also good for psychic protection. Also, we're talking about low frequency beings who want to feed off of you. They want to create low frequencies. They can even manipulate people's minds. So you want everyone to be in their higher self, whoever's around you in their higher self. There's different multiple ways they can attack. So they can even attack through electronics. Okay, they can go through electricity. Honestly, so you want to have a good orgonite and selenite in these types of EMF protecting devices. But the main thing that I found is that you want to use very highly advanced extraterrestrials, angels, and archangels to help you. And that involves Archangel Michael. It could involve Christ. And if these beings are super, super, super dark, then you will call upon the will of God, because man cannot fight them alone.
All right. Thank you so much.
I gave you a basic understanding. Do you have any more questions?
Yeah,
I think we missed something. I wanted to, the quantum financial system. There is a quantum computer It's not actually something I should be saying much about, but I'll say what I can. So this thing, it comes down to Earth, in the atmosphere of Earth, and it docks for 6 minutes, all the data and information that it needs, where it can't be seen or remote viewed. And there's many ships that are surrounding it. And it is like a very advanced AI that can read your barcode, your soul's barcode, and your frequency. So if any of this money is given out to anybody and they do evil purposes with it, it will be seen, it will be stopped, and there is something definitely watching over it to make sure that it doesn't get interfered with. It's like a crystalline, it's made up of a crystal type of computer. And then, who made it? It's very hard to tell, but it most likely could be purple beings.
Gotcha. But that would solve like all these money laundering issues and how the central banks are like extracting all this money from the economy. And once we switch over to that, that would solve all those issues.
So actually the money laundering, like if somebody were to do money laundering, then yeah, the QFS would be able to find them, scan them, block them. However, our financial system with the Federal Reserve, it was once owned by the Rothschilds. It's not owned by the Rothschilds anymore. Now it's been taken into the Treasury. So this gold and stuff is being dumped into the Treasury. Okay, so that's what's going to be backing the assets, and then the assets, they're going to be turned into a U.S. note. You can still track inside of a dollar. There's like, these strips, and they could even find when you're transporting like thousands of dollars through the airport. There has been pictures of the new U.S. note, and within the next couple of years, it looks like we'll be transitioning out of using the actual dollar, and these notes will come out more, and so people will be trading with those, but they will be gold backed. And fiat and digital currency. Now we're getting into NESARA and the other stuff. Yeah. The IRS, who's been taking people's money, obviously, from income taxes and other taxes, using it for secret black budget programs. There is definitely going to be a reformation of the IRS. How much of it is going to occur, I don't know. But most likely the taxes are going to be changed, where you're just paying like a 15% tax on new items. So used items are not going to be taxed, and medications aren't going to be taxed, food's not going to be taxed, but just on new items. And this is something different than like the revaluation of the dollar and the global currency reset. This is kind of its own thing where, you don't see the debt jubilee quite yet, or the IRS coming down quite yet, but there is a debt jubilee in progress as well, possibly even starting in the next couple of weeks. Right, in the next 3 months, you'll start to see that as well. Some people already see this with their mortgages being paid off. Some people already see it with student loans being paid off. But what's going to happen is more and more credit cards are going to be paid off, because what they did was they lent money backing it, and then it was all just digital. So this is going to be transformed. Our dependency or our codependency on money and everything, and these systems and selling your energy for something, it's going to start to be changed. There will be funds for more humanitarian projects where people will be able to aid, important missions. And so I'm probably not going to be able to talk about this much more longer. So it's good that I'm going to get this out now for people to have an understanding. So if I've touched on any topics that are interesting you, please look into it, because I'm giving you an advanced warning that within the near future, I might not be able to give anything away.
Thank you so much, Monica.
All right. Well, if there's anything else, now's the time. I don't know if you've had an open chat. Have you had anybody coming on?
No, this is just you and me. I'm just recording this, and I'm gonna re-upload it and share it with my peoples.
Well, yeah, please, everybody continue your research. We're in a very important time right now. where China and the Draco are trying to gain control and turn us basically into cybernetic beings and have no control of your consciousness. So there is a fight right now to wake up as many of us as we possibly can. And I want to ensure a happy future with new healthcare, with new med beds and new free energy devices. And I will not stop fighting. So thank you everybody for joining and listening. Thank you, Sean, for having me on. And I hope that this was an amazing show and all your viewers gained something beneficial from it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was amazing. That was really interesting stuff. All right,
Thanks
see
so
you
much.
guys.
You have a nice day.